Hello again. I thought today I'd give you my thoughts on this stuff. This is supposedly clean, so the manufacturers reckon, fuel for two-stroke engines. I'll point out I don't have any connection with the company that makes this. I first started using this because I do a lot of my chainsaw work in very enclosed spaces. A while ago I picked up an older Stihl 034 chainsaw. It's an older model. It runs fine. It's got an older carburetor, and I would find that when I was in thinning a very dense stand of trees, the fumes were really bad, and I was having to stop every 5 minutes or so and just try and get some fresh air. So I thought I would buy some of this stuff and give it a go. Now you can see it says it's ready mixed with 2% fully synthetic oil and is suitable for two-stroke engines and chainsaws, trimmers, perhaps it means a strimmer, head shears, mopeds, etc. Didn't know mopeds ran on two-stroke petrol mix, but there we go. The first thing you notice about this is the cost. Now this is a 5 litre tub. 5 litres of regular unleaded costs me about £6.50. This actually costs about £18, so it's 3 times the cost. So that makes your eyes water. For that reason I only use it when I'm cutting in enclosed spaces and fumes are a problem. The second thing you notice about this when you open it, and obviously I can't do this on camera, is that there is almost no odour from this at all. It just does not smell like petrol. It's the faintest odour. It's very unusual. You almost get the feeling you're pouring water into your chainsaw. But the big selling point of this is that this stuff is supposed to be very clean, good for you, good for the environment. And one thing you cannot fault it for is that this stuff just does not stink the way that regular petrol does. It almost smells like water. The other unusual thing you notice about this is the colour. The Aspen fuel is on the left and my own ready mixed petrol two-stroke mix is on the right. It's hard to convince yourself that this stuff is actually pre-mixed with two-stroke, but it says so on the box, and so I believe them. But it's very unusual to pour something in your chainsaw which isn't that lovely pretty pink colour. After all these years I still find it a difficult thing to do. The label actually says this is a unique fuel for anyone wanting the best product for their health, the environment and their machine. The engine starts and runs better. Well, I use Stihl chainsaws, so the engines always start and run fine anyway. There is a reduced need for servicing, well, like most people. Occasionally I'll put a bar or a chain in to get them properly sharpened, and if I have any problems with the chainsaw running I squirt some carburetor cleaner through. Very rarely will I ever take a chainsaw in for a full service. There is an increased service life. Okay, again, I use Stihls. I'm currently using an 034 which was made in West Germany, and this thing's about 24 years old. And that's been running on a regular petrol two-stroke mix. Now we get to the good bit. Virtually free from sulphur, benzene and aromatic hydrocarbons. 99% fewer harmful hydrocarbons. That I can vouch for. This stuff is very clean when you burn it. Not so clean maybe in the older chainsaw that I use, but in the newer 230 that I use, it certainly removes most of the exhaust emissions. You don't feel like you're choking to death when you're cutting in an enclosed space. So how would I summarise this? The cons: it's very expensive, so I'm not going to be using this in my lawnmower. And you don't splash this stuff around when you're filling your machine up either. You make every drop count. I'll only be using it in enclosed spaces, and I think that if I'm out in the open and I've got the wind around me, I will be using regular petrol and two-stroke mix. One problem which I hadn't anticipated, I don't think I'd really realised that, you know, the odd times a chainsaw springs a leak, a fuel leak, you detect it by smell. And on my 230, the fuel line developed a pinhole leak, and I actually used it for the better part of a day with this fuel before I actually noticed. I'm pretty sure that if I'd been using regular fuel and two-stroke mix, I would have smelt the fact that it was leaking fuel. So that's one thing. Perhaps I should put something that smells nice back into it. I don't know, maybe cherry or apple scent or something like that. If you're listening, Aspen, because that's how I detect fuel leaks on my chainsaw. I use my nose. On the plus side, this stuff is very clean. It burns very clean. You don't feel like you're damaging yourself when you're using it. You know that the mix, the 50 odd mix, is absolutely spot on. When you're doing it by hand, you never get it exactly right. It's supposed to last for years. That is a big plus, because I, like everybody else, with the best intentions, don't always empty fuel out of my machines when I've finished using them. One consequence of this is that the fuel can evaporate. It leaves this varnish gum stuff behind, and it basically clogs up all the fuel system on your machine, and that does actually happen. And I can show this to you now. Last year I finished using this chainsaw. Yes, I know it's filthy, it's due a clean. Last year I finished using this chainsaw for the season. I emptied the fuel out of the fuel tank just by basically tipping it up, and I didn't actually run the carburetor dry. When I came back to use it again, I was using another chainsaw in the meantime. When I came back to use it again, this fuel primer bulb, which had once been clear, was now this colour, and that happened in about 3 months. And that's the consequence of leaving fuel in your machine. And I did have to squirt some carb cleaner into the carburetor to get this thing running again. And then once I put the Aspen through, it was fine. So you can leave Aspen fuel in your machines, and they reckon this won't happen. So you can now leave fuel in your machine for as long as you want. It's supposed to last for years, and you don't have to trouble your conscience or feel like you're a bad person. So there we go. I do like this stuff. I will continue to use it. I'll be using it when I'm cutting in enclosed spaces. I'll not be using it when I've got space around me and I'm not too worried about fumes. It is very expensive. I'm not going to go out my way to buy it, but when I'm passing my local chainsaw supply shop, I will go in and pick some up. You try and see what you think.